Greetings, Tenno, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for the games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the macaroni and cheese of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy who refuses to put sriracha on his mac and cheese, but adds a bit of spice to my life. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
I'm exhausted. So exhausted. I can't tell if you were hitting on me or not.
No. No, number one.
I'm kidding.
I mean,
I'm
you
kidding.
like macaroni and cheese.
Who doesn't?
Well,
Who doesn't
probably
like mac and
somebody. I mean,
cheese?
you're lactose intolerant, maybe? I don't know.
Well, those people probably still like it.
That's true. That's very true. I mean,
Come on.
it's cheese and carbs. Like, what's not to love? But
Yeah.
do you put sriracha on your macaroni and cheese?
You know, sriracha isn't really a big thing here in Massachusetts. So
What?
I can appreciate it. I like spicy food, but sriracha hits that weird is it ketchup, is it not ketchup line for me. So I prefer hot sauce like Frank's Red Hot or local hot sauces to sriracha.
Do you put anything on
Personally.
your macaroni and cheese then?
Cheese. But you don't have to. You don't have to put anything on mac and cheese.
Just,
If any, I guess bacon is acceptable in like restaurants, but
oh yeah, that'd be good. Maybe some breadcrumbs. You know, if you're getting real
Yeah.
fancy. Okay.
yeah. But I can
Awesome.
see it. I get it. So I get the sriracha craze, but we'll leave that for Kevin and Battle Chef Brigade podcast.
That's right, because this is not a macaroni and cheese podcast. That's right. This is a podcast, like we said, all about those board games and those video games. So thank you for joining us. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on Twitter, or check out the awesome stuff we've been posting over on Instagram. So also use that hashtag Board with VG when you're posting, so that we can check out all the cool stuff you're doing and all the cool games that you're playing and all the awesome stuff that you're doing. So enough with the housekeeping. Let's get into the cool stuff that people want to hear about, which is apparently not macaroni and cheese. Josh, what have you been playing on the tabletop?
On the tabletop. Well, it's been a fun past couple weeks for gaming, obviously, with all that Black Friday stuff rolling in. You'll see that on our Instagram if you're looking. But I want to talk to you guys about photosynthesis. And I apologize because I do have running S's, so this might be a tough one for listeners. And when I'm tired, it's even heavier. I can already hear it in my own voice. This is a game that it's like, I want to say it's the second or third printing now, because it sold so well, so fast, that this game was sold out for a while. And we finally were able to score it at PAX Unplugged. And essentially, the title tells you pretty much all you need to know about the game. Theme-wise, you are gaining light points from the sun as it travels in a circle, obviously, around the board. For all you flat earthers, you'll love this board because it definitely will make you feel like the earth is flat. And what you're doing, how you're gaining light points, is through seedlings and through 3 sizes of trees. So what you're doing is essentially planting seeds to grow trees to get light points, whilst competing with 1 to 3 other players on this circumference of a board. The board is actually square, but your scoring track is in the middle of the board, and it is in ascending order to the middle. So the outside track is worth a set amount of points. I want to say 1. They show it in leaves. So 1 on the outside, 2 on the inner track, and ultimately 3 when you get to the very center of the board. There's only 1 spot on the board that has 3 leaves on it. And how you gain, and what you do from those is you gain victory points by putting a tree through its full life cycle on that plot where you planted a seed. So I'll try to get to how you do that. You start the game with your own character board, so to speak, and on it you have a set amount of seeds, set amount of small, medium, and large trees. Now, everything on that board costs you light points to buy. And that is also a turn to buy one of those. You also start with a pool of, I'm going to say 2 seeds, 2 small trees and maybe a medium tree. I'm probably getting that number wrong, but you start off with a certain amount of freebies, if you will. And what you do is on your turn, you'll plant a seed. That's your turn. Then your opponent will go. We played a 2-player game, so it's quicker because the opponent will go and then the sun will move. So you take the sun piece on the board and you rotate it the direction that the board tells you to. You play 3 phases of a full rotation of a sun. So as the sun gets back to where it started, you take a counter off, which will then reveal the number 2, and then finally number 3 until it gets to the end. So what you do is once you eventually start planting your trees, they cast shadows based on the way the sun is hitting them. So when you look at the sun, it will show arrows in the direction that the sun's rays will hit said trees on the board. So if you have a small tree, it casts a shadow of 1 space behind it. A medium tree casts a shadow of 2 spaces behind it, and a large tree casts a shadow of 3 spaces behind it. So the way this works is if there is a tree behind, even if it's a tall tree, so if you have the biggest tree and it's behind a small tree, that's still casting a shadow on that big tree, so it will not get light points for that sun's rotation. And because the sun rotates around the board so much, there will never be a play that's exactly the same every rotation because of the alignment of the trees. Like I thought I was being clever and building a straight row diagonally across the board, except, well, if I have all these small trees blocking each other, there was a couple turns where me or my wife didn't get any points, and it was a wash. But it's really cool because it adds a very strategic element to the game. And when you plant seeds, depending on the tree size, a small tree, you can only plant a seed from that tree 1 space away. A medium tree, you can only plant up to 2 spaces away, so that seed is essentially coming from that tree. And so what will happen as you progress through the game, I thought I was clever because you get points similar to lanterns, where if you complete something first, you get more points for completing this certain thing. So I went right for that 3-leaf center spot, assuming it was the most points, because you get 19. It's not called victory points. It's a clever term on photosynthesis, but I call them victory points anyways. So I got 19 victory points for the first time, but my wife did smaller outside ones, and she ended up winning overall at the end of the game just because she did more. And what happens is once you get that tree, you spend a turn to essentially decompose that tree, to kill that tree. You remove it from the board, and you gain victory points. And then you have to do the process all over again, going from seed to small to medium to large. And that's your chain every time. So it's a very beautiful game. I posted some pictures on the Instagram. You can check it out if you're interested. Worth the hassle? Yeah. And it's a game that could very easily have charged a lot more money. I'm pretty sure you can get it on Amazon for like $35 on a good week, because I think it fluctuates between $30 and $40. But you can walk into your local hobby store or Barnes & Noble and buy it for now. And and I know coming up with Christmas, it'll be harder to do that as well. But high recommendation. I can't wait to play it again. But as I talk to you, I'm always looking at my stack of games. And Pytown is sticking out of me right now, and my Mystics, and all the smash ups I just got, and the Harry Potter expansion, blah, blah, blah. So I got a lot to play before we bring photosynthesis back to the table, unless we have more people come over, because it's a game I would want to introduce to people. It's one of those games that easy to learn once you kind of get through that first meeting phase of the game.
So is this basically an abstract game?
Yeah, it's definitely.
Okay.
I shouldn't say definitely. It toes the line. Yeah,
okay.
It's abstract, I would say. mostly, but I don't think it hits necessarily like I don't know. When I think of abstract, I think of the most extreme abstract
Right, right,
games.
right.
So that's on that lower line of abstract for sure.
So maybe abstract, but it carries the theme really well.
Abstract light with a nice theme. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say, is this, if you haven't played a lot of abstract games, would this be a good one to start with, or is it a little more complex than that, or kind of where would that fit?
No, I think it's super easy to learn. So this would be a great abstract game to start with for sure.
Awesome.
Good question. Good question.
Awesome, awesome.
So
Yeah, I've seen it. It looks beautiful. Your pictures on Instagram of it are gorgeous. I just have not had a chance to play this one yet.
yeah, no, it's. I'm glad we got it. My wife actually, we probably wouldn't have got it if I had made a decision at that point, but she really wanted it, so I'm glad that we got it for her because it was great.
Awesome. Very cool.
Your turn. What do you got?
Well, I have a confession to make, and it's going to be a very sad confession. I did not play a board game this week.
Oh boy.
I know, right? Like we do this whole podcast about board games and video games, and I didn't have an opportunity. It was a really busy week. However, I'm going to fudge a little bit, and I'm going to talk about a game that could be a board game, and that there are other variations of a game similar to this that are board games, but this particular one is not. And it's actually a digital card game, and I'm talking about Elder Scrolls Legends. So if anyone is familiar, Elder Scrolls Legends, it seems like every IP these days needs to have their own card game similar to Hearthstone, similar to Magic. And Elder Scrolls Legends fits into that for the Elder Scrolls universe. So if you're familiar with that, you're going to see a lot of the characters, a lot of the trappings you would expect in all the Elder Scrolls games you will see here. Now, myself, not a huge Elder Scrolls person, so a lot of the stuff they talk about doesn't mean anything to me. I'm like, I don't understand who these people are. I don't understand what this group of people are or what that means for them. But if you do have that background, I'm sure some of the flavor of this game would make more sense to you than it does to me. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Elder Scrolls Legends. Indeed.
Yeah, live feed. This is all
yeah, that was great. No, that's awesome. So if you've ever played this type of collectible card game, and make no doubts about it, it is a collectible card game. It is going to ask you and encourage you to buy packs of cards with real US dollars. If you live in the US, at least, probably whatever your currency is, wherever you live. But you have a deck of 50 to 70 cards, which I found to be very interesting because as someone who played a lot of Magic growing up, staying at the base of your card count is really, really important because you're trying to increase how often you get your best cards. And the fact that they're like, yeah, 50 to 70 cards in your deck, and they give you that 20 card cushion, which I guess technically Magic has because you could put your extra 15 card your sideboard into your deck if you really wanted to for your second game. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just found that very interesting as someone who, was sticking to 60 cards for Constructed for so long of like, hey, whatever you want to do, that's going to be fine. It's pretty straightforward, though. As most of these card games, your goal is to, for the most part, reduce your opponent's life total to 0. This game is played in multiple lanes, so that I do like that aspect that the cards can, for the most part, only interact with other cards in their lanes. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about when I talk about this game is generalities. The one thing you'll notice if you ever play a lot of CCGs is there are cards that break rules all the time, and that's kind of the point of them. So not everything I'm going to say is going to be 100% true for every card or in every interaction. But, your opponent has 30 life, you have 30 life. One cool thing that they do that I like is that once you lose 5 life, you get to draw a card. And I really like drawing cards. But it does kind of give that nice feel that if you're playing against a deck that gets out really quickly, it's hitting you really fast, and your deck's a little bit slower, you don't quite feel so bad about losing a ton of life right away because you get to draw all these extra cards, which is always fun. The decks are themed based on the different groups into Elder Scrolls lore. And so far, I have about 4 different decks I've played. They feel pretty different. I feel like I'm doing different things with the decks that I've had so far, which is exciting. You have a starting hand of 3 cards. If you go second, you get to have a nice little ring to add some magicka 3 times over the course of your turns to help balance out that whole not going first situation. Just like Hearthstone, your magicka goes up by 1 each round, unless you have cards that change that, up to a maximum of 12. And on your turn, playing some cards, hitting some people, and passing the turn. Drawing more cards on your next turn, hitting some people, passing the turn. I really enjoy it. I didn't think I was going to like this game that much. I actually had been browsing around in the Google's Play Store looking for a board game app to play. So I had something to talk about on this show because I didn't think I was going to get to play any board games just with how the week had been going. So over the weekend I was doing that and I saw this and I was like, well, it's free. We'll give it a whirl. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really surprised at how much fun I'm having. It doesn't allow me to do the one thing that I get annoyed with. Like, because I played so much Magic, the fact that I can't declare blockers drives me crazy in these types of games. Like, if I know you want to do a thing, but why don't my people want to protect me? That doesn't make any sense. Like, if I'm the person summoning these things and being like, go fight, why don't they want to protect me? Like, why can't they stop them? Like, I don't get it. So far, I like it more than Hearthstone. I've kind of floated in and out of Hearthstone. It just, for whatever reason, never really grabbed me. So far, I am enjoying this game more. I've played it for every day for a week, which for me is a lot for these types of games. So I'm really enjoying that. The developer, though, which is Direwolf Digital, they have some former Magic Pro Tour players that work there. So I think you can really feel that in the game. They're also really well known. Direwolf is really well known for the game Eternal, which does seem much, much more like Hearthstone from what I know of it. I haven't played it at all, but from what I've seen, it looks much more down that Hearthstone route. But I am now interested in trying that. And the cool thing about Direwolf is they actually are working with Renegade for Renegade games for digital versions of Clank and Lanterns. So they're the ones who are working on those, which I think is really awesome as well, which makes me really excited because this game is very polished. It runs really well. The load times are a little slow, but I've had no crashes. I've had no bugs. Everything has always worked 100%. So I'm really excited to play those digital versions of Clank and Lanterns now because, what I've seen, the work that they've done here, I'm really enjoying it. So that's my thoughts. Like I said, not truly a board game, but Elder Scrolls Legends, definitely a solid entry into the digital card game. I haven't spent any money in it yet. I haven't felt the need to, just because I've been unlocking things pretty regularly, but I'm also a low level right now. So I'm sure if I keep playing, I might feel more desire. How much have you played? I saw that you have it. How much of it have you played?
I'm level 8. Okay. But I haven't picked it up in a little while. I kept it on my phone because I enjoyed it. And I just wanted to touch on there is a Lanterns app out already. So I don't know if it's a new one or if they just got it out. And I have the Clank app also. It's in there's a app that's just Renegade, and it has Clank in it, but it's a game assist app, so you can play Clank solo and it plays with you, which I thought was pretty cool. But I was going to tell you, have you heard of SolForge?
I've heard of it. I've never played it.
It's by the people who made Ascension, and it's essentially the same. It's essentially Elder Scrolls. You have all these, what you were just describing. You're building these decks with all these specific groups of like Swamp and basically Magic meets Hearthstone. I've been playing that. I got the beta at PAX East like 4 years ago, but I've had it on my phone ever since. I'm pretty sure it's free to play. SOL Forge.
Yeah, I'm looking at. You know what? I did play this.
Did you?
I totally forgot about this game. Yeah, I totally did play this, but I didn't.
It's gotten a lot of awesome upgrades. So if you played it when it first came out, it was a little sloppy, but
yes,
it's much
that is
better
what I
now.
played. Okay,
but it's checking out. But I really did enjoy Elder Scrolls to get back to that because it did add a little bit more story that I was even just kind of basically familiar with. I'm not a big fan of the Elder Scrolls games, but I'm kind of a fan of the stories they tell, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
And I really wanted to get into the online one too, the Elder Scrolls Online when it came out, but I just didn't have enough people to play with. But yeah, the card game is great. It runs real well on the phone, and yeah, I kind of felt the same way you did when I jumped into it. I expected to not like it, and I just did it because it was free.
Right.
And I ended up just playing it a bunch. So I thought I really enjoyed it as well.
Awesome. Well, there you go. A couple games you can check out, including one you can take with you on your phone if you would like. So for the topic of the board game topic of the show this week, man, this is what multiple hours of podcasting will do to you. We're going to cover a few of the interesting news tidbits that have happened in the world of board games in the last week or so. So Josh, why don't you hit us up with the first one?
Sure. For you listeners, you'll know that this is a going to be a particularly sad story for me. uh, so today, Barnes and Noble announced they called it a number of dramatic changes in the way it runs stores, but as a retail store, it's very common what's happening to them. So don't buy their sob story. But what they're doing, unfortunately, is they're restructuring, and they'll be. I'm just kind. You guys can find the full article online. It's not hard to find. But essentially, they're going to close a decent amount of their stores, and they're going to shrink a decent amount of their stores. But the big news for us to cover is they will be reducing a lot of their SKUs for board games specifically, and then all that kind of like little gift section you see when you go in that has like the mystery pop vinyls and the DC figures. And I think if you walk into a Barnes and Noble, you can kind of see it's like the Island of Misfit Toys kind of setup. People really don't know what to do with it. It's just kind of there. I don't think they ever really brought on anyone who knew what to do with the branding. And even if you follow through some board gaming channels, you'll see people posting photos of Barnes and Nobles. And like the good ones, they have a nice, solid setup for board games. Like it's in the puzzle area. There's 3 or 4 12-foot gondola type sections where they're well merchandised. And then some people post a photo of a 8-foot tall, 4-foot section of as many board games as they could stuff into it as in one store. So, it really varies based on the store. So, it's sad to see that they didn't put the focus on pretty much a booming industry right now. But I don't know. For me, like you walk into Barnes and Noble and they're still charging you $44 for Captain America on Blu-ray. They're a little outdated on their pricing guidelines. And it stinks. I buy vinyl from Barnes and Noble, and I buy board games from Barnes and Noble, and occasionally I buy books from them. But I buy them because I get these great incentives from coupons that I'm getting from being a member. So now my dilemma is, do I cancel my membership? Because ultimately, I don't have to do it now, but when they start shrinking the board game section, it's great for my local comic shops because that's where I'm going to start going. And I don't think many people are going to feel a huge loss from Barnes & Noble. However, that being said, there's going to be a good section of people that's their only place that they can get board games.
Right.
And that's a sad realization. As a country, we have a lot more places we can go to buy them, but depending on your location, I can get to 3 Barnes and Nobles from my house in under 30 minutes, 3 different ones. So it's pretty accessible to me. But for someone who has to drive 35 minutes just to get to a shopping plaza that might not have a Barnes and Noble, it's going to be tougher on them. So, their sales are only down 7.9%. I know that doesn't sound like a huge number. It is.
That actually sounds like a lot to me. I don't know. Like,
yeah, no, it is a big number. It is a big number. They should have just went with the $30 million they lost, not 7.9%. But yeah, I don't know if you guys are listening and want to share your thoughts. I'm kind of curious where you guys buy your games. If you want to let us know. I have decent amount of options, but I'm in a city. It's easy for me to go find somewhere. But I know not everyone's that lucky, and people sometimes have to live through us to hear about board games, and then have to buy them on Amazon.
Yeah, well, and that's the bummer too. There goes that Barnes and Noble sponsorship. We're gonna go for the angle for.
Actually, they might sponsor us now. They'll be giving us all their clearance games.
That's true. That's true. Let's get rid of these. Yeah, I have a Barnes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I have a Barnes and Noble about 35 minutes from me. Well, about 30 minutes from me. Actually, both of the quote unquote local comic stores are closer to me than the Barnes and Noble is, but that's just because of the side of the town that I live on. But yeah, it's a bummer. When I stop in there, I definitely check out what's going on, what games they have. I also have a membership which just renewed last month. So I got at least another year of it. So that's great. But my wife is very, very much into books, and we buy a lot of books from them. So I think we'll continue to be customers for some time. But their board game collection has kind of been up and down. It had been up for the last couple of years for sure. But I think it, like you said, it very much depends on the store. My local store, I think they try very hard, but they don't have anybody who works there who is super knowledgeable about board games.
Yeah.
So like when I am there, like when I bought Pandemic Legacy Season 2, it was just in the same group with Season 1. I actually had to pull Pandemic Legacy Season 1 box out, grab a 2 box. So I was like, that doesn't look like it should be the, and put one back. And then when I went to go bring it up, get it rung up, they had never checked into the system because when Season 1 came in, they just put that they got 4 of Season 1, but they got 2 Season 1 and 2 Season 2 because they just thought it was the same game. So, that can happen anywhere. But as someone who's worked retail in the past, obviously, the more you know about a product and the more that you are aware of what's going on, the likelihood of something like that happening reduces. It can still happen, but it just reduces. So it is a bummer, though, because you're right. For some people, though, who never would imagine going to a local comic shop, but maybe would go to a bookstore, this is going to be their biggest exposure to, hobby board games, and that might be going away, which is a bummer.
Yeah, and they had like their Gen Con releases at Barnes & Noble specifically, where you could only buy Magic Maze and Downforce and Skyward.
Yep.
That's great. I walked into Barnes & Noble and I bought Quest for El Dorado because it was there and I never seen it there before, and there was one copy. I get home and I find out people don't even have it at Essen yet.
Yeah.
So they get these like random like shipments in. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. The theme of this whole podcast ever since we started is Josh is bummed.
But you're not usually a bummed person.
I know, I'm not. It just bums me out. Why can't everything be awesome? Anyway.
Not the Lego movie.
Do you have a story for us that's maybe put me in a better mood?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it's going to put you in a better mood. And this is a brief one. And this actually, all of what I'm going to be reading is from DicetowerNews.com. So feel free to check them out. They do some really good reporting there as far as the going-ins of what's going on in board game worlds. But it was announced that Steve Jackson Games and Cool Mini or Not have announced a multi-year partnership to produce board games based on the Munchkin license. So the two companies have worked a little bit together previously. The Munchkin collectible card game, I think, is coming out next year. Yep. And is designed by Eric Lang, who is the director of game design at Cool Mini or Not. But it also looks like they're going to be really working with John Kovalik, who is the artist behind Munchkin. And Munchkin has a very distinct look to it. So, and supposedly, the first game is going to be based upon Arcadia Quest, also an Eric Lang design. And that game will be coming out in fall of 2018. So, sir, are you excited about a Munchkin-inspired Arcadia Quest-style game designed by Eric Lang with, I presume, miniatures of the art from John Kovalik? Is this something you're down with?
All I can think of is the price tag when you say Arcadia Quest.
That is the only reason I haven't purchased that game. I want it really bad, but man, that game is not cheap.
No. So I'm kind of I'm torn. I would have to preface this. I have Munchkin Quest. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's the dungeon builder game where you build floors as you walk through. And I have Munchkin with like 30 expansions all in one box. And my friends hate playing it because it makes everyone hate each other. But this is what I would say to you. I don't have words to answer your question specifically. So I'm going to ask you, when I say these titles, what does they mean to you? Smash Up Munchkin, Munchkin Panic. Why? Those are things that exist. Munchkin Panic doesn't need to exist. I just bought Smash Up finally, and I'm buying all these expansions, and then I see Smash Up, Munchkin Smash Up, and it's a full-size box. It can be played standalone or with the game, and my card collecting me wants it, right? I'm like, I want it, but then I'm reading, it's like, oh, it adds treasure cards, and it adds monsters who circle the bases, and I'm like, forget it with your Munchkin stuff. I didn't even they had the Munchkin CCG at PAX Unplugged. You couldn't take pictures of it. You couldn't do anything with it. You could just sit down and play it. I'm like,
Mm.
I don't need to play Magic that is cruel to you more than it already is. So I think you kind of get a gist of how I feel.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, here for the good or for the bad, I've never been a huge fan of Munchkin. When I have friends who really like it, so I will play it with them. But I'm the person who actively is trying to end the game as fast as I can. Like that is like I get why it's popular and I get why people like it. And I think that the design of it and the art direction of it is really cool. Like I think that they have a really good, distinct thing going for them there. But I don't like this isn't enough to draw me in. I think if somebody else owned it, I would definitely probably sit down and play it. For better or for worse, for me, the fact that it's a Munchkin based game immediately makes me less interested. I don't think Munchkin is necessarily a bad game. It's just not a game that really fits in with the style of games I like to play.
It's a specific style. It's a mean version of a take that game.
Yeah, it is mean. It is very mean. And like I've had more people get super angry playing Munchkin than any other game that I've ever played.
Yeah, that and Boss Monster is a big
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's
that's a good one too.
Fight decider in their household.
Yeah, my wife won't play Boss Monster anymore. So,
yeah,
which is probably a good thing for our marriage.
Yes.
So there are our thoughts about it. Let us know. Are you interested in a Munchkin-based game set in the style of Arcadia Quest with cool? I think the miniatures might be cool. I think they could get some really sweet miniatures out of that. So I am interested to see what those look like when they're done. We do have a couple actually one listener question in this situation. Super listener Shiplig at Dopalicious wants to know, what is our favorite game with miniatures? I really want to get Blood Rage, but as a dad with 3 girls, I may be waiting for My Little Pony edition. I totally play that on second thought. I'll be honest, I would totally play a My Little Ponies miniatures game. I think that probably would be great. But, Josh, what is your favorite game with miniatures? Or miniatures, depending on who you talk to.
I should know, we do have the My Little Pony CCG at the house. Just to cover that. But we have not played it because I told her she needs to read the rules and she has not done that yet, which is good for me. You know, I really want to get Blood Rage 2. It's one of those games that I've always been interested in, but to be totally honest with you, I don't think I own any official miniatures games. Like, would you consider Mice and Mystics miniatures?
I mean, it has miniatures in it, so I would say sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I own that. I haven't played it yet. I own Star Wars Armada. I haven't played that yet. So I can't give you a definitive my favorite game. I'll tell you this, though. In January, February, Monolith Games is launching a Batman miniatures Kickstarter. Fully licensed Batman game.
Is that the game that's out in the UK already?
No, this is a fresh, brand new, like, it's like they keep showing off the art for these things. So I can't tell you my favorite game. I can tell you I'm most excited for Batman. And I don't know if I'm necessarily into miniatures games. So this will be the game that if I can get into miniatures, this will be the game that I decide to jump in on. And I'll jump in on this one at Gloomhaven prices.
Oh, wow.
I'm willing to jump in because I mean,
Batman.
It's just a big Batman house.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't played a lot of straight like miniatures games. Like if you talk about like Warhammer, War Machine, Malifaux, like I've played some Warhammer. I have some Warhammer fantasy figures that I've painted and stuff, but I haven't played a ton of it. I had a friend who was really into it, so I tried to get into it to play too, and yeah, that didn't go super great. I was really bad. I have a lot of respect for the people who play those games because they're actually very, very. There's a lot of deep strategy that goes into those. If I had to pick my favorite game, though, that has miniatures as a part of the game, I would pick Scythe. I still really enjoy that game. I think the miniatures for it are pretty solid. I've never painted them. I probably should someday. Same with the ones for Mice and Mystics, which is another good game with miniatures. But yeah, so those would be, Scythe would probably be number 1, Mice and Mystics number 2. But if you talk about like straight up legit like minis games, that's not anything I have ever super gotten into. But I would love to if people want to do that thing. So, All right, sir. Let's make a sharp turn and start talking about things digital. What have you been playing on your television?
All right, I'll make this quick because we're going long on board games. I've been in that mood where I don't know what I want to play.
Mm.
Still, it's been a couple weeks going on. I was just playing Destiny 2 Season 2 right as we jumped on. But mostly I've been spending my time exploring Game Pass on the Xbox. So I've been downloading a bunch of games that I maybe haven't played before. Also, Xbox does these cool things called quests. And if you complete the obligation, they give you rewards. In the past month, I've already gotten $10 in digital credit from them just from playing games. So this month's quest is play Xbox Game Pass games for 15 days of the month, and you'll get an ultimate prize pack. And if you just play 5 days in the month, you get a regular prize pack, which has turned out to be $5 in credit. So if you have an Xbox and have Game Pass, make sure you're doing those quests. Nothing to write home about. I got back into Gears of War 4 because I never finished it, and that just hit Game Pass for this month. I downloaded the Sherlock Holmes game on the Game Pass, The Devil's Daughter, I want to say. And there's a few games I've downloaded that I'm just kind of waiting to play, but I'm gonna. And I jumped into Warframe, not to step on you, but because I saw your tweet, or yeah, I think it was a tweet, and I had played it when it first came out, and I decided I wanted to jump back in and give it a shot. And for me, it was moving. I deleted my save so I could start again because I didn't want to. For me, it just moved too fast. I was doing missions with 3 other people, and I couldn't really explore the map. And then I would get these notifications saying, "These people are waiting for you. These people are waiting for you." I'm like, oh, okay. So I played a few missions, and I just ended up running through the levels with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I was able to play with a game group of people that I know, that we could slow down and enjoy it, I would be way into it. But I'm going to let you talk about Warframe because I'm telling people what you played.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I had played Warframe when PS4 first launched. It was one of those games that was available right away. If you're not familiar, it's a free-to-play third-person action game where you're basically a space ninja. I mean, that's basically what you are, and it's sweet. When I first played it, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I was like, yeah, this game's okay. I don't, see, it's fine, whatever. And I just fell off and found other things to play. And I had a friend who recently started playing it again, and they were like, Kyle, you need to try this game again. It is really, really changed. And I was like, okay, sure. So I downloaded it, and it sat on my, my PlayStation for like 3 weeks before I was like, okay, fine, I'll play it. And I booted up. I'm really impressed. Warframe is a game that, like I said, 4 years ago, I couldn't have cared anything about. And now, man, that game has really done some cool things. The different Warframes. So basically you play as a character who there's a huge intergalactic war going on, and it seems like you're fighting everyone. But you use these different Warframes that all have different abilities, and there's like 34 of them or something in the game right now. And that's how you move around, and they have special powers, and then you can get primary and secondary weapons, and you can get little things that float around with you, and robots that shoot at things, and really specific descriptions I'm giving here. But it's basically a third-person action game where you're running mostly PvE missions. There is PvP stuff. I haven't done any of that. But then every single part of the game, from your Warframe to your guns, everything is upgradable and customizable, and it's very, very deep. Like, this is a free-to-play game through and through that you have the ability to buy currency if you want to, and if you don't want to, you can go through and just grind and grind and grind. Your like each weapon has like a dozen different slots that can be upgraded. I mean, it's just ridiculous levels of customization. All that stuff was super confusing to me. So there's an auto like configure thing that you can do, and I just did that every time. And I think what might make it more fun for you, Josh, is at least for my game, and maybe it was just because I had a friend in my party who was playing the game, my matchmaking was set up to friends only. So when I would go run missions, he was the only person that would come with me. It wouldn't make me into a group of 4. And he had said the same thing. He's like, this game is not about exploring and opening every chest and doing all these things. He's like, you're you just want to blow through these missions as fast as you can. And I'm like, but there's a story. I'm trying to listen to what the story is. So it is really fun, though. I highly recommend that, if you're interested in third-person action games, especially something like playing as a space ninja sounds cool, I recommend you check it out. It doesn't cost you anything to try it. I think this is a game that I will probably come back to from time to time and dump in a few hours here or there. But there are people who sink hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game. The community is very active. There was a ton of people playing when I was playing. And I think this is one of those games. It is nominated at the Game Awards for like best ongoing game. It's a game that if you haven't checked out in a while, or you have some preconceived notions based off of, if you look at like the reviews of the game when it first came out, it got like 6s. This isn't that game anymore. It is really cool, and they're doing a lot of different things. It's very dense, though. Like you said, there's a ton going on. It moves very fast. It explains very, very little to you. So you have to have some patience. Maybe if you have a friend who's played, that would be helpful. But I recommend checking it out because, like I said, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And I think it's really polished for the low price of $0. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a little bit about Warframe. But hey, let's kind of transition here to our video game topic of the show. And then one thing I thought would be fun to talk about is that GameSpot recently published their list of most read game reviews for this year. So this is games that came out this year that have been reviewed January through the end of November. The reviews that were the most read. And I thought it'd be really interesting to go through these reviews and just talk about, hey, are we surprised that, these were the top 20 most read? Are we surprised by the position of them? And kind of how all of that works. So I highly recommend you go to GameSpot, check out the article. They give you a brief description of each game, and they kind of walk you through it. But we're just going to go through, talk about these things, and let you know, are we surprised by what is where and all of that good stuff? Ready to go, sir?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. In the number 20 spot, that huge, crunchy JRPG, Persona 5. I personally did not necessarily expect the Persona review to be in the top 20. Did you think it would be there?
No, I mean, it's no spoilers, but there's a lot of surprising things to me on this list.
I agree.
but for me, so I guess I'll say it now, and maybe the listeners can share their opinions. But when I read a review, like really read a review, it's for a game I don't really know much about, or maybe I'm on the fence about buying. So Persona 5 for me hits that because I don't know much about it, but I did not read the review for it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't be surprised. It was just announced that Persona 5 is sold through 2 million copies. So maybe more people were interested in the game than I thought. I felt that the people who were passionate about it were a very loud group of people, but not maybe a very big group of people. But apparently it was bigger than I thought. In the number 19 position, then, one of those games that almost made my forgotten games list, Sniper Elite 4.
Yep.
Have you played any of the Sniper Elite games?
No, but I played Zombie Army Trilogy, and I know it's based off of the Sniper Elite engine. So I've always been intrigued by it. It's always seemed like an interesting game to me, but I've only watched some people play it. I haven't played it myself.
Yeah, I actually reviewed this game for PSVG, so you can find my review on PlayStationVideoGames.com. Nice. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was a fun little game. There were some technical issues with it when I played it at just prior to launch, but I think it's definitely worth the play, especially now. I think you can get it for about $20. The X-ray kill cam that they have is pretty intense, but I think it's definitely worth a play. And number 18, I think maybe one of the surprises, is the game Observer. Did you see this one showing up on the list?
No, not only did I not see it showing up on the list, I didn't see it.
Oh, were you familiar with this game?
Not at all.
Oh, gotcha. So Observer is from the folks who did Layers of Fear. Okay. Cyberpunk, story-driven game. It's supposed to be very good. I know there are some people who this might even make their top 5 games of the year.
Really?
Yeah. So some people really like it. Some people did not. I think it's pretty divisive. I know there are probably some 9.5s, and probably some 6s if you go look at reviews for this game. But yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good if you like the whole cyberpunk story-driven game. I think Rutger Hauer is actually the voice actor in the game. Nice. Yeah, nice. So it's supposed to be pretty cool, but it's from the folks who did Layers of Fear. So yeah, that was Observer coming in at number 18.
Okay.
Number 17, For Honor. Now this is a game I know you enjoy.
Weird. that
Why
it's
is this
in
weird?
this spot. It's just so I don't know. It doesn't fit. I think that this game should have been a lot for me. I think this game should have been a lot higher on the list. This is one of those games people always ask about. They're like,
Really?
For Honor. I always hear about For Honor. Do you play? Have you played it? Do you play the online? What's it like? Like, I didn't even know there was a story mode until I played the free play weekend. Like,
This for me, this actually fit about where I thought it would be because I think it's a game that has a pretty dedicated community, but I also don't think it's a game that's setting the world on fire, like maybe
right.
Wildlands is or something like that. So I think about maybe where I'd expect this game to fit. So yeah, there's seven For Honor from Ubisoft. Number 16, this surprised me. Number
Yeah, me too.
16, Super Mario Odyssey.
Why?
Now, granted, the game hasn't been out that long, so the length of that people could read this review is much less than some of these other games that have been out since February, like Sniper Elite.
Right.
But I thought this would be higher still.
Did you? I thought it wouldn't even be on the list. You don't need
Really?
to read why do you need to read a review on Mario?
And I think that's probably part of what happened is people just were buying Mario.
You're gonna buy it. You don't need to read the review.
I just figured people would wanted a fix of some sort. I know a lot of people were worried about spoilers. Maybe that's why I didn't read it. But yeah, I thought this would be higher just because people were excited about the game, and I kind of felt like that might propel it a little bit. But again, it also wasn't out for very long, so that could explain the placement. Following that, number 15, a game that released the same day, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good placement there. I thought maybe this would mean it would sell better than it did, but
Well, yeah.
Did you play Wolfenstein 2 or no?
I have Wolfenstein and New Order on my PlayStation. I just need to get into it. I played maybe 2-3 hours of the first of Wolfenstein, but I bought it on Black Friday last year. But then there was just so much that got in the way.
Gotcha.
So I didn't get into it, but I want to. I enjoyed what I played.
Yeah, it's a good game. We just recorded PSVG's top 5 favorite games of the year. I don't know what they're going to call it, but this may or may not make an appearance on someone's list. So, following that, then at number 14, a game that kind of surprised me, but when I thought about it, didn't surprise me. Injustice 2.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. I guess it makes sense that people, because it's a fighting game and they're very I wanted to say divisive. That's not the word I want to use. They're very for their niche.
Yeah.
Not everyone can play them. So it makes sense. I mean, I couldn't really pick a number that makes sense for me on that list, so I'm okay with that.
When you saw it, did it surprise you that it was on the list or no?
No, I don't think so. I think that I knew if it was me, that would be weird, but I knew I wanted it when I played Injustice 1.
Right.
But I think a lot of people started paying attention to Injustice 2 recently, so I think that it makes sense more people are reading up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. For a game that came out in May, seems like a pretty good placement. I guess maybe Injustice was more popular than I thought it was. I just genuinely think of fighting games as niche games, but
it's just the license. I think that's all that's really getting the traction for that game.
Absolutely. If it's not Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, maybe the big license is what's pushing it forward.
Because like Marvel versus Capcom, they didn't even make this list, right?
Nope, not on the list. Spoilers as we continue through the list. Number 13, then, Ghost Recon Wildlands. I thought this would be a little bit higher, actually. This seemed like a game that, from the people in our Discord and stuff, people seem to really like this game. So I thought maybe it would be a little higher. And it's still the second best-selling game of the year, I think.
Yeah.
Behind Destiny 2, right? So, I'm surprised. I thought that one would be a little bit higher. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think that top 5 maybe even is what I was thinking at least.
So the next game on the list then, cracking in at number 12, Assassin's Creed Origins, the third game of that trio to come out just a little over a month ago. This is more of where I thought maybe Mario would be kind of in this position, flirting with the top 10. But instead we have Assassin's Creed. What do you attribute that to?
Timing. It would be a lot higher, I think, if you gave it 3 more months. But it's one of those games that people have to read the reviews because of the track record with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that makes perfect sense considering, where you see Wolfenstein and where you see Mario, assuming most people just assume those games are probably going to be quality based off the track record.
Yes.
Whereas Assassin's Creed, maybe we need to read before we purchase, which I didn't, but I that's just because I'm me.
Right.
Number 11, this was a game that really surprised me, Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah, I don't have words either.
So, a nice RPG that is only on PC. I didn't think most PC people would go to a site like GameSpot.
Well,
Maybe I just
it's on Xbox.
Divinity Original Sin 2 is?
Yeah, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think the first one. I think the first one is. I don't think the second one is.
Oh,
But
is it the
anyway,
first one that I'm thinking of? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
Divinity
So
Original Sin is. Yeah, you can double check that. But anyway, yeah. So I was surprised. I just didn't think the PC crowd would be frequenting GameSpot as much to read about that. At the number 10 spot, then, is Neo, that sweet, sweet samurai game that I tried and was really, really bad at. I'm kind of surprised that this is even on the list.
Yeah, maybe people thought it was noir instead, and they were just searching the wrong game.
Maybe. I think there's definitely a group of people who really love this game. I just am, and granted, it came out in February, so maybe a lot of people are trying to make their decisions about purchasing it, but I did not anticipate this one would crack the top 10.
Right, with so much time between February and now, it's very surprising it's on the list at all.
Yeah. All right, then coming in at number 9, Middle Earth: Shadow of War. Does this surprise you in the least?
No, not at all.
Me either. I think the loot box controversy around this game definitely, probably pushed people to read reviews before purchasing. So that the fact that one is only a couple weeks older than like Assassin's Creed doesn't surprise me that it cracked the top 10.
I wonder what else might be on this list.
Number 8, that one of those games that you were just playing, Destiny 2, in the number 8 position.
Yeah, that makes I could see it higher, but the top 10 makes sense to me.
Yeah, I thought it might be higher considering how many copies it sold, but definitely, obviously, being in the top 10 makes sense. But I really thought with the number of copies that this might be even a little bit higher. But maybe, hey, people don't need to read reviews; they just buy games.
Yeah.
So, number 7, one of my favorite games of the year, Nier, pulling in at number 7. What did you think about this one?
That's a Neo game, right?
Too many of them 4-letter words that start with N. Nobody can decide.
I played the beta. I played the demo, not the beta. I played the demo and I really enjoyed it, but I could tell just from the demo that I didn't have time to play it.
Yeah, I think it doesn't super surprise me to see that on this list. I'm surprised that this is this high, but I think just the buzz that this game had after people have been playing it for a while about how cool the story is and some of the interesting things it does, I think maybe it sparked people to come back and read reviews to see if maybe the game was for them or not. So I love it though. I think Nier's a great game. Highly recommend it. Number 6, another one of those games probably pushed completely by controversy, Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Another game you don't need to read a review for.
Well,
it's Star Wars.
The game was out for what, 3 weeks, and it made it number 6 for most
because of how awful EA has been recently. But I don't even know, someone, it could have been you. Everything in this past 2 weeks is a blur, but it's the Star Wars license. It'll sell. You don't need to read. People don't read reviews for stuff like that. At least not the mass public.
Right.
If you take the hardcore gamers, which I know people hate that term, like us, we're going to read reviews on games regardless, I think. But I mean, with Battlefront 2, the only reason why it's up there is because EA told me I don't want to play as a pink Darth Vader, so that's why that's not in the game.
Right. Yeah. So I think, controversy is pretty much the reason that one is so high. Pulling in at number 5, then, a game that also has been out for most of the year, Horizon Zero Dawn, one of Josh's favorite games of the year.
All time.
Josh's favorite game of all time. One of my personal favorite game of the year. Not my favorite game of all time, but favorite of the year. So, yeah, happy to see that nice little Killzone developed game sitting at the number 5 position.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of surprises there. Nope. Also, not really surprised with the next one at number 4, Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I think that should be like number 1 because like it's such a stark contrast to all the other Resident Evil games. Like people want to know what they're getting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but if you've played like Resident Evil 6 or even 5, for me, I don't want more games like that.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that people recognize this is going to be a stark change, and they wanted to see how that stark change worked out. Were we getting something good or something not so good as a result of that change? So yeah. At number 3, Call of Duty World War II.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to like the rest of this list.
I was surprised a little bit because number 1, I didn't think a lot of people who like I just assumed most of the people. This is going to sound bad. I didn't assume a lot of people who bought Call of Duty read reviews. You know, like if you look at the vast majority of people who are purchasing it, clearly I'm wrong. Clearly they want to know what people like, what the gaming press thinks of the game. So
yeah, and I think I agree with you. Although I think I kind of divert a little bit because I think that all the Call of Duty players read this review because they wanted to hate it. They read these reviews because they want to hear someone say that they didn't like something these people love, and that's kind of that crowd. Not to hate on any Call of Duty players, but there's a very, very specific group of Call of Duty players that just are terrible.
No, let me be clear. I love Call of Duty. I haven't played this one, but I've played every one since Modern Warfare up until this one on day 1. So this one I did not get just because I had too much to play. But I am definitely going to play this game eventually. So I'm surprised that it came up so far. Number 2, a game that was not a surprise for me, but I did not think it would be in the number 2 position. That is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Are you surprised at this placement?
Clearly, like I'm dumb because I don't understand why this needs. It just goes back to what we've been talking about. I was under the assumption that there are certain games people don't need to read reviews for.
Mm-hmm.
I see the flip side of it. I just didn't see that. In hindsight, I was just like, I didn't read a review for Breath of the Wild. I just bought it. I didn't read a review for Mario. I just bought it because it's Mario and it's Zelda.
There you go.
And that's why I ended up with Star Fox Zero, because I should have read the reviews.
Yeah, but this game I thought would be the number 1 just because I thought because of the hype of the game, and I don't think any game has been more hyped than that game has in the this year, and delivered on the hype as well as that one did. So
sure.
Yeah, I really thought it would be number 1 just from people being anxious to see, like, oh, is this game going to be as cool as I think it's going to be?
It's going to get enough number 1s. It doesn't need to have this to be number 1 also.
That's true. Speaking of number 1, this surprised me more than any other game on this list. Not that it was on the list, but the fact that it's number 1. And I'll be honest, I forgot when I was putting my list together for my favorite games of the year, I forgot this game came out this year.
Yeah. And it deserves to be number 1. If you didn't do your research before you bought this game, like this guy right here, you can't complain about the content that you received.
So what we're alluding to, number 1, the most read review on GameSpot from January to the end of November this year, Mass Effect Andromeda.
From January.
Yeah, I know, right? So like the
game came out to December.
Yeah.
People still reading the reviews because they're like, oh, it's $30. Should I buy it? And then they read the review and they're like, oh no, I should wait.
So I was really surprised. I thought this would be on the list, but the fact that it is as high as it is really did surprise me. I was really shocked that was the most read review they've had this year.
I scrolled down, I saw it, I was like, oh, yep.
Oh, that didn't surprise you at all?
That makes sense to me. No, I totally get it.
Yeah, in retrospect, when I think about it, and when you explain it, yes, it totally makes sense. But if somebody had just asked me, hey, what do you think the most read review was this year? I would have guessed Zelda.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have guessed any popular games. We would have been total opposite ends of the field on that one.
You would have guessed Observer. So
yeah, I would have left Google most unheard of game of 2017. That's the one I pick.
So there you go. That's the games on the list. Like I said, some interesting entries, some not surprising entries, but in some interesting places. So there we go. Josh, what do you say we wrap this show up?
Yeah, I think so, before Kevin gets mad at us. Thanks for joining us, guys and gals. Remember, find us on social media. at Board with Video Games or at Board with VG, if you want to get it correct, like I do. That's BOARD. Don't forget, make sure you do hashtag Board with VG. I'm pretty sure just Kyle and I are doing that right now. So if you guys like play a game, just let us know. Share that hashtag. I don't even care. Just if you want to write a thing about your life, just hashtag that Board with VG so I can get some insight on who's listening. If you want to find me, I'm not going to plug myself. I am going to. Oh boy, this is tired 12-year-old Josh. If you guys do me a favor, if you guys are listening, if you guys own base Machi Koro and that's it, hit me up on Board with VG, whether it's a tweet or a direct message, and I might have a special something for you.
Awesome. Well, you can find me on Twitter, on PlayStation Network, on Board Game Geek, on Instagram at Cycocross, CYCOCROSS. As we wind down the year, we will continue to bring you awesome content every week, so be on the lookout for that. No rest for the weary, as we are both weary, but we are hopefully going to now go get some rest. If you have any suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on social media. Josh will probably respond. I'll probably be irresponsible and not respond, but he'll take care of you. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.